Ugandan-born socialist Zohran Mamdani has won the Democratic primary in New York. It's huge news. Andrew Cuomo has conceded the race. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, we wanted to interview this guy, and I questioned whether I should be as disparaging as I possibly could be to his crackpot ideas. And I'm like, well, we'll keep it, at a B minus in terms of calling out the insanity of this guy's policies. But let me just say outright, his policies are ignorant, childish, outright just insane. We're talking government-owned grocery stores, free buses, among other things, rent stabilization. Now, a lot of socialists love these ideas. $30 minimum wage. But anybody who's done, 10 minutes of research into economics, command economies, systems of governance, public funding of research, is going to be like, yo, this is fake. Now, Eric Adams, who is still running, says this guy is a snake oil salesman, but he wins overwhelmingly with the youth vote. Hey, man, this is the fourth turning, right? Strauss-Howe generational theory. Every fourth generation, everyone goes nuts. And I think the issue is that generations typically fail to educate the younger generations because experience is everything. You know, they say that you get a generation of conflict. They experience the crisis. They begin to understand because they go through it. But they can only convey through words to the next generations. Eventually, you'll end up with America's formerly greatest city run by a bunch of crackpot socialists who basically burn everything to the ground. And the Chicago Tribune is warning, don't do what we did and elect a socialist. But looks like they're going to do it. Now, full disclosure, right? Well, actually, full disclosure isn't the right way to describe this. Let me just say, understand, this was the Democrat primary. So the assumption is this guy by default wins because New York is going to vote Democrat. However, there is some speculation that Eric Adams, running as an independent, is going to rally Republicans, independents, and moderate Democrats against the socialist, and you may get an Eric Adams victory. Some have speculated. Many have said, y'all are nuts. That's not going to happen. So we'll see. But how about we do this? How about I show you just how insane the younger generations are getting and who they elect and why this guy, if given the keys to the castle, will literally burn down New York City. Okay, figuratively burn down New York City. Although, to be fair, considering how far left people are very violent and they like throwing Molotovs, maybe burning down the city might actually happen with this guy in charge. Considering he wants to get rid of the police, defund them, and replace them with social workers. Not an exaggeration. Before we get started, shout out to Steven Crowder and the Mug Club. Welcome to the Rumble Morning Lineup. This is your noon hour hosted by me, Tim Pool. And I want to give a thank you to Steven Crowder and all of his viewers coming and joining this show and watching for the next hour, of which I'm sure he was talking about something very similar, if not the same thing. Before we get started, we got a great sponsor. It is Chef IQ. Check this stuff out. The IQ Sense, man, this is so cool. So the hardest part about cooking and barbecuing meat, chicken, fish, etc., is you get tethered to the stove. You're sitting there, you're waiting. Me, I'm not an expert chef. So I'm popping open the grill and I'm poking the meat and I don't know exactly when it's done or not. It's not barbecue. We grilled, the barbecue people are going to get mad at me. We grilled like a couple months ago and the burgers looked done and I opened up one and said it was good. We took it off. They were not done. One of them was done and we were like, ugh. So my friends, these days are gone. We got the Chef IQ Sense and we're ready to get going with our grill. It is a record heat wave right now, but I'm excited for these. I'm really excited for this. Chef IQ Sense is brilliantly simple. It's a cooking sensor. Goes into whatever you're cooking. It's like a meat thermometer, but way more smarter, but wireless. So you just put it into whatever you're cooking. You download the Chef IQ Sense app, and it's going to monitor your food for you. So you're free to kick back, visit with guests, do whatever else you want to do. Then Chef IQ sends an alert to your smartphone when your steak, chicken, fish, whatever is done, cooked to order. No more guessing. The best part, they got a flash sale. So jump on this. Summer grilling season is here, and Chef IQ Sense makes you a grill master. During their flash sale, you get 15% off at chefiq.com. Use promo code TIM. Shout out to Chef IQ once again. That's chefiq.com, promo code TIM. Legit, we got some of these. These are really, really cool. And my friends, for Pride Month, our Don't Be Gay skateboards at Boonies HQ are back in stock. And I know many of you are saying this is shockingly offensive. No, we're not offensive. Okay. We didn't want to be in the middle of any kind of culture war over Pride Month. And we thought if we made a Pride Month collection, well, conservatives are going to get mad at us. So what do? We made both boards. Don't be gay and be gay. And you decide, really. That way, we're neutral and we offend nobody. Now, due to the high demand, this has never happened to us before. We've sold so many of these in such a short amount of time, we've overloaded our distributor. So there currently are, I think we may have 50 left. We're constantly restocking because of the high demand, but you will be able to order any amount of the Be Gay or Don't Be Gay boards. It's just possible they go into back order, meaning they'll have to physically manufacture it to order, whereas we normally will produce up front and then sell because we don't want you guys to miss out if you really do want to purchase one of these boards. That's at boonieshq.com. But let's jump into the news, my friend. News 24 has its Uganda-born candidate. What is it? What are you doing here? What is that? Uganda-born candidate Zohran Mamdani set to be the first Muslim New York mayor. Tonight is our night. The Post-Millennial reports Andrew Cuomo concedes NYC Democrat mayoral primary to Zohran Mamdani, with 90% of the votes counted. In the first round of the Democratic mayoral primary counted on Tuesday, Governor Andrew Cuomo has conceded the race to Socialist State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. It is likely that Cuomo will run in the general mayoral election in November. The New York Times reported that Cuomo addressed the crowd at his election night party, saying, "Tonight was not our night. Tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night." Claire Fahey for the Times said, So that Cuomo says Mamdani ran a great campaign and connected with New Yorkers, adding that he inspired them and moved them and got them to come out and vote. He really ran a highly impactful campaign. Cuomo called Mamdani and congratulated him in a few minutes before 10:30 p.m. Let's give him a round of applause. Tonight is his night. He deserved it. He won. Charlie Kirk says the Muslim socialist Zohran Mamdani is such a shameless dirtbag. He changes his accent depending on who he's talking to. He also used to be a rapper whose mom directed his videos. Okay, now, the first thing I'm going to say is, I don't care if his mom directed his videos or he was a rapper. Everybody did things when they were young. That's not a great argument, but let's watch this video and see what they're talking about.
Because I think that New Yorkers, more than they hate a politician they disagree with, they hate a politician they can't trust.
On the subject of trust, you've adopted different speaking accents in different scenarios.
But they go to their local bodega.
Is there one that's real and one that's affected?
What I would say is, as any immigrant knows, having been born in Kampala, Uganda, and then raised in South Africa and moving here when I'm 7 years old, is there are different parts of my life.
A worldwide tour is a worldwide tour is a worldwide tour.
Mamdani was talking about a worldwide press tour back when he was a rapper.
Bring the flavor to the fish, bring the flavor to the rice.
In a Disney movie directed by his mother.
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way. Here in New York City, this is how I speak. Because I think that New Yorkers...
Yeah, they call it code switching, but you can already see who this guy is. Well, the results are in. The socialist has won. And oh boy, I'm excited to break down the insanity that is socialism. Now, first, here are the results. With a crushing just about 9%. Okay. Actually, I'm sorry. The numbers changed. Last night it was 9%. With the updated votes in at 93%, it looks like he's at around 6.9%. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's 7.1. I don't know. I'm doing math bad. Zohran Mamdani taking the victory over Andrew Cuomo with 432,305 votes. And to be fair, a lot of people are saying it's not that a socialist won. It's that Cuomo lost and nobody wanted him. And that was really the best the establishment or the middle of the road had to offer. Jeez. Cuomo left in disgrace. So it could just be that this guy won because people were like, I'll take anybody. Now look at this. Brad Lander got 112,000 votes. Bravo, dude. Obstructing ICE officers and getting away with it sure did boost your profile. But hey, don't take my word for it when I say this guy's a crackpot. Let's jump to Zohran Mamdani's website, and I'll show you exactly what he wants to do. And let's start breaking down why this is insane and will destroy New York City. And it's a trend we're going to see for some time because young people are crackpots, at least in big cities. Now, the ongoing trend is that people, moderate, middle-of-the-road, urban types, people like me, have fled the cities already, paving the way for people like Mamdani to win and then further erode and burn everything down. The request that I and everybody else has is just when you move out of New York because of this, because, just don't vote Democrat. Not that the Republicans are great, just leave them out of it. All right, so he says he wants to freeze the rent. What are you talking about, freeze the rent? He says the majority of New Yorkers are tenants, and more than 2 million of them live in rent-stabilized apartments. These homes should be the bedrock of economic security for the city's working class. Instead, Eric Adams has taken every opportunity to squeeze tenants with his hand-picked appointees to the Rent Guidelines Board, jacking up the rents on stabilized apartments by 9% and counting. The most since a Republican ran City Hall. As mayor, Zohran will immediately freeze the rent for all stabilized tenants and use every available resource to build the housing New Yorkers need and bring down the rent. The number one reason working families are leaving our city is the housing crisis. The mayor has the power to change that. Perhaps. Okay. Freezing rent. There's viral videos going around already from New York, Los Angeles, and other big cities where building owners, which are usually companies that will own, like New York's crazy, okay? So many people live there. You've got these big units that'll have maybe like 50 apartments within them, big buildings. And what's happening is a large portion of them are going unrented and they're letting them just remain. Why? What happens is with rent stabilization, there are labor costs that can't change. It's called market economics. A person wants what their labor is worth and they demand a cost for their labor. Hey, socialists, pay attention to this one. So a guy who normally will fix the electricity or put in new drywall or paint says, listen, I'll do this job. It's going to be $5,000. The building owner says, I can't rent the room for enough to cover the cost of that renovation. The rent, we're only allowed to charge $2,000 per month. And with the building costs as it is and the wear and tear from the individual, it's not going to work. Let me tell you, for those that don't own property, they may not understand that, we had an issue at my house where we had a drain backup. We didn't realize. And the water was running on the sink. And within minutes, water was spilling on the floor. I think it was like 15 or 20 minutes of water pouring on the floor. And anybody who owns a house knows immediately, like, holy crap, that's a catastrophe, right? So we had to have drywall removed. We had to have fans put in to clear out everything out because we had water damage just because a drain backed up and we didn't notice. I know, yell at me, say maybe you shouldn't have had the water running, but we thought we had the water running. We're trying to get it to go hot. Forgot about it. These things happen, right? My point is not so that you can all laugh and say, ha, you left your water running. By all means, that's allowed. It's that this cost us thousands of dollars to repair because we made a dumb and simple mistake. So these building owners are basically going, if I'm going to maintain this building, I need to pay the super. Okay, he's got to make at least $60,000, $70,000 a year to maintain and run this because he's got a family too. We'll include the rent. Maybe we'll pay him 50 or 60. We're talking about New York City prices. He's going to want more than that. That means I got to charge X amount for rent. Then you get rent stabilization and they say, I can't even fix this up. What do you get? Slums. And then these people come in and they say, you're a slumlord. And they say, I don't have the money to fix it. Nobody wants to do the job for that cheap. And they blame you for it. And then they fine you and they seize your property. Now, in this regard, let me just say freezing rent is the stupidest thing imaginable because that's just price controls. It doesn't work. Labor costs money. But hey, let's roll. New York, you elected this. Building affordable housing. Oh, I love that. What does it mean, affordable housing? Here's what they're talking about doing. The issue with building affordable housing, and let me just say this as my expertise in having worked for nonprofits, specifically on the LA housing crisis, the homelessness crisis, drug abuse and youth, and going over this, the labor costs for the production of these units versus what affordable housing can charge, you are charging less in rent than the cost of the building, meaning the building has to be subsidized by somebody else. Long story short, they will tax other New Yorkers to get enough capital to hire contractors to build a house that can rent below cost. This is not sustainable. We learned this lesson with Pruitt-Igoe in St. Louis. The buildings begin to fall apart, and then you end up with gigantic slums. Basically, crime, gang activity, buildings falling apart, people getting injured. It is psychotic, but they do it anyway because these people are immune to learning. A crackdown on bad landlords, and there it is. And there it is. That's the point. They create an untenable situation. And what happens? People flee. But this ain't even the worst of it. And here we go. Supporting homeowners and ending deed theft. I'm not going to get too much into that, but seriously, deed theft is crazy. And there is a problem with low trust societies. So I'll give them that one. Now, nobody ever bats a perfect score, right? What do they say? Is it batting 100? I don't know baseball. Here we go. The Department of Community Safety. This guy, let me see if I can find the tweets. Here's him advocating for a communist mayor. Here's him talking about government-owned stores. Here's him saying taxation isn't theft, capitalism is. Here's him saying this is literally a tweet, queer liberation means defunding the police. And here's him tweeting, we want to defund the police. So he wants the Department of Community Safety, a crackpot leftist ideology, and he's basically running this. This is a deranged proposal where, based on cult manipulation, people believe police are more dangerous than actual criminals. I got my issues with cops. I've got my issues with the system, and the industrialization of pushing people through the system is bad. But cops are actually a good thing. We just need to figure out how to fix the real problems this guy doesn't actually have the solution to. The department will invest in citywide mental health programs and crisis response, including deploying dedicated outreach workers in 100 subway stations. How do you afford all that? Here's my favorite one. Well, first, let me just show this again. Here's him tweeting that they want a communist mayor, literally a communist with a sickle and hammer in their profile. But he has this video. It's 34 seconds long. I'd like you to enjoy it. Let's roll.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
Lies.
Grocery prices?
That is a lie from either a man who is too stupid to understand why it's not possible, in which case he's wrong, or someone who knows and is intentionally misleading you for the purpose of selling you snake oil so they can win. Let's roll, baby, and talk about your city-owned grocery stores. He writes on his website, food prices are out of control. Nearly 9 in 10 New Yorkers say the cost of groceries is rising faster than their income. Only the very wealthiest aren't feeling the squeeze at the register. As mayor, Zohran will create a network of city-owned grocery stores focused on keeping prices low, not making a profit. Without having to pay rent or property taxes, they will reduce overhead and pass on savings to shoppers. They will buy and sell at wholesale prices, centralize warehousing and distribution, and partner with local neighborhoods or products and sourcing. With New York City already spending millions of dollars to subsidize private grocery store operators, which are not even required to take SNAP and WIC, we should redirect public money to a real public option. Before I get into the insanity that is that policy, let me just ask all of you, how many of you would like to buy your groceries from the DMV? I'll wait. What's that? Not a single person said yes? Okay. Welcome to public-run grocery stores. You remove rent, you remove taxes, you remove underlying costs, and yes, prices for groceries will go down. You then remove you remove profit motive, meaning you don't need to pay the people running the business, and what do you get? Wholesale cost goods. That is incredible, isn't it? Except this means every bodega and every private grocery store will be out of business in a month. Then you're going to end up with food deserts because the city will not be able to spend enough of other people's money to replace every single grocery store. The heart of New York City is small business. For those that have ever been there, you know every street corner, every street, it's all small business. No big box stores. That's how the city operates. But how will you, as a bodega operator, now, if you're not from New York, you may say, what's a bodega? A corner store. In Chicago, we call these corner stores. They are small little shops on the corner, but bodegas don't have to be on the corner. They're basically little convenience marts. They pop up all over the place. Some of them are owned by companies that have like 15, 20 or more. Now, if you've got taxes, if you've got rent, if you've got healthcare costs, if you've got permitting, licensing, and you've got employee costs, guess what? You're operating on thin margins as it is. If you buy a gallon of milk for $1, you got to factor in refrigeration costs. You got to factor in all of those underlying costs the city has imposed upon you through regulation. You then say, we're going to sell the milk at $4 a gallon. Why? I got to pay my staff. I got to pay the city. I got to pay my taxes. And your margin is, on average, between 1% and 3% low. Now, he's not just talking about getting rid of the profit motive, which would drop the cost of your milk down to like $4.30. Okay. He's talking about getting rid of underlying government imposed costs, creating impossible market competition. If the government says, pay this or we will shut you down, they're shaking you down, and then say, at the same time, we're going to open a store where we don't have to worry about those costs. That's tyranny. That's fascism. That is the government putting the boot on your neck saying, you will shut your business down. The city's not going to be able to operate at scale. We're talking about with all the bodegas in New York City, and just Manhattan alone is 2 million people. We're talking about 9 million. You're going to need 100. How many? You know what? Let's just do the hard number right now. I want to get the actual number. How many bodegas in NYC? I bet it's 100,000. Some psychotic number. Let's see. Come on. Give me the answer. 13,000. Oh, I was way off. 13,000 bodegas, not including 7-Elevens. Really? That's interesting. So let's see. If we are conservative estimates, we'll put it between 8 and 12,000. And total small stores, which includes 7-Elevens, could be upwards of 15,000. Do you believe this guy is going to be able to open 15,000 bodegas? So what's going to happen is there will be cluster shopping at the government stores that he creates, a short-term benefit indeed for a lot of people, and then a collapse. And once there's no market competition, you get red lines. Why? Because the private stores can't operate, and there's 15,000. Meaning, with 15,000, and let's call it 20% margin of error, many of these people are failing these businesses because they're not getting the business they need. Many of them are succeeding. So around, let's just say 12,000 of them are required to provide goods and services, largely goods, to the local community. That is milk, bread, and eggs. You start installing citywide, maybe you do a couple hundred. People will first start going to the cheaper options when they can. This is going to pull money away from the private enterprise, which after losing even a small percentage of sales, start going out of business. Lines will start forming outside of the cheaper locations, which again, in the immediate people are like, hey, that's not bad, right? That people are getting cheaper groceries until the lines become 2-hour waits. And now you're like, well, all of my local bodegas closed down because it only takes stripping away 5% of those sales to insane government competition before the bodegas start shutting down. Long story short, I wish I had more time on this. This dude is nuts. Fast, fare-free buses. How do you pay to maintain the buses and the bus drivers while having it all operate for free? Taxes, baby, because these people aren't smart. Taxing the corporations and the 1%. Indeed. What are we seeing now? Well, a 2% flat tax on people who make more than $1 million, so they'll leave New York City and just live somewhere else. I got to tell you, my friends, if you make more than $1 million a year, it ain't that difficult, depending on where you are, to get to New York City if you need to go there for anything. So you can choose to live in PA, and depending on how wealthy you are, hop in a helicopter for a couple grand, and I'll tell you, it's cheaper. So let's say you live in PA 100% of the time, and you do business in New York, and you're worth $10 million, and you got it. Let's say your income is like $10 million. You're a wealthy American. You'll just say, "Why live there? I'll leave, and if I need to do business, I'll just hop a helicopter and land on the river on top of a building." Or you could take a PJ to Teterboro. That's what most people do, and then it's an hour drive into the city. You're there for a simple meeting. You don't got to be there all the time, and then you're not paying 2% of your revenue to the city. So what happens? You can't tax the rich, they can leave, which means the Laffer curve explains this. You increase taxes, your tax revenue goes down. They're not going to be able to afford all the things a guy wants to do. But wait, it gets better. Billionaire CEO warns he'll close grocery stores if Democratic Socialist candidate wins the NYC mayor race. John Katzimatidis, the CEO of Gristedes, found fault with Mamdani's plan, saying businesses could not compete in the market if there are city-run supermarkets. Saying, if the city of New York is going socialist, I will definitely close or sell or move or franchise the Gristedes locations. Katzimatidis told Fox Business he will also contemplate moving his corporate offices to Jersey. He said that he won't make his decision after the primary election. Now, it's still possible this guy loses, but there is another big question related to this guy, and that is that he's foreign-born, an immigrant Muslim, which has led to another conversation of great controversy, and that is whether or not foreign-born individuals should be allowed to hold office, and whether or not Democrats have intentionally created a circumstance by which foreign allegiance or anti-American sentiment is so prevalent that they begin winning elections in major jurisdictions and gutting this country from what its ideals and values were. Now, the Tribune has issued a warning. They tell New York, Chicago Tribune, avoid the mistake of electing a socialist mayoral candidate. Well, you know what the problem is? In a city with millions living there, only about like 1 million people actually voted? A 20%? Where's the actual hard number from the New York Times? Here we go. So 93% came in, 993,000. So we're talking around 10% of the city actually voted. To be fair, it's the Democrat primary, not the general election. And Eric Adams is confident he's going to get 700,000 and he's going to win. Some speculate that Zohran, as insane and ignorant as he is, that we are going to see a coalition from moderate Democrats, conservatives, and independents to vote for a candidate like Eric Adams so that Zohran Mamdani can't win. I will additionally add, his plans are all still pipe dreams. The idea that you're going to be able to create a city network, you're going to need city council to actually vote for that. You're going to need the taxes and the budget. He's likely going to get in and find it doesn't work. But the real issue that I see is someone as stupid as this, who either, I got to pause, stupid or evil, maybe both, is either not going to benefit you, has no intention to, or doesn't understand that this makes literally no sense. Ultimately, we ask ourselves, what can this guy really do? Well, I don't know. It's yet to be seen. He wants to raise the minimum wage to $30 by 2030. Yeah, that's insane. It's just the city is going to burn down. You can't pay people more than the labor they produce, and technology is reducing the cost of labor. This means over time, there is an inverse correlation. The more technology we get, the less value in manual labor. We'll get a kiosk. We'll get robots to do it. And so if you say it's $30 to hire a person, but it costs me 17 cents to run a robot, guess what I'm doing? Now, the initial investments for robots may be a little bit more expensive, but over the year, you're going to save way more money. Corporations are going to do this. Cabs will be automated. People will be left destitute. And this guy is, he's a snake oil salesman, like Eric Adams said. Now, my friends, we have a lot to talk about. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the migration issue. And we're going to be joined by, I believe we have Ann Coulter standing by to talk about the issue of immigration and comments made by Stephen Miller about what this means. So that'll be up at rumble.com/Tim Pool at 4 p.m., as well as youtube.com/Timcast. So make sure you check that out. But for those that are watching live, it will come up in just a bit. For everybody else, thank you all so much for hanging out. Smash the like button, share the show, follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast, and we'll see you all in the next segment.